In every corner of modern life, people are quietly struggling. The pressure is relentless. Deadlines stack up. Bills arrive faster than paychecks. Relationships feel strained. Conversations shallow. Trust fragile. Even moments meant for rest are invaded by buzzing phones, glowing screens, and the constant demand to keep up. The body grows tired, but the mind refuses to stop. Beneath the surface, stress turns into anxiety. Loneliness sharpens into despair. And even small setbacks feel like heavy storms. Millions live in this rhythm every day, carrying burdens they never speak about, trying to survive another sunrise with the same unresolved pain. We are told to fight harder, to stay strong, to keep pushing forward. The message is clear. Success will fix everything. Money will bring peace. Love will erase the emptiness. Yet the more we chase, the more distant these promises become. Stress grows, not lessens. Anxiety multiplies. The modern dream begins to resemble a cage. People wonder quietly, why am I never enough? Why does relief never last? The truth is, these questions are not signs of weakness. They are signs of being human in a world that has forgotten how to breathe. This is where the wisdom of an ancient path steps in, not as a religion to memorize, not as dogma to obey, but as a living compass that points toward freedom. For thousands of years, Buddhist teachings have spoken of suffering and the way out of suffering. They do not promise a perfect life without challenge. Instead, they offer tools to meet life exactly as it is, with clarity, courage, and compassion. These teachings are not distant philosophy. They are practical, simple, and profoundly human. They speak directly to the pain of stress, to the grip of anger, to the weight of fear, to the hunger for meaning. God, imagine being able to pause in the middle of chaos and discover a quiet center inside you that no storm can destroy. Imagine meeting your anger not as an enemy, but as a child asking for your attention. Imagine learning to transform loneliness into connection, not by searching endlessly outside, but by discovering the home you carry within. These are not fantasies. They are the real fruits of mindfulness, compassion, and understanding. This journey we are about to take together is not about escaping life. It is about entering life more fully. We will look at the most common wounds of modern existence: stress, money struggles, broken relationships, anxiety, and more, and place them in the light of timeless wisdom. Each pain is real, and each pain carries within it the doorway to freedom. With every step, we will see how Buddhist practice transforms suffering not by denial, but by deep recognition and gentle transformation. Think of this as a conversation between your deepest pain and your deepest potential. On one side, the restless patterns of modern living. On the other side, the ancient keys to inner peace. This is not theory. It is a lived path that countless people, from monks in monasteries to parents raising children, have walked with courage. Now it is yours to walk. As we begin, remember this truth: you are not broken. You are not powerless. The very struggles that weigh you down can become the fire that lights your awakening. Tonight, we start this journey together, one story, one breath, one teaching at a time. And as each part unfolds, you will see how pain can be reshaped into peace, and how your life, exactly as it is, can become the ground for freedom. Have you ever noticed how life often feels like a loop you cannot escape? You wake up, go through your daily routines, face the same frustrations, and end the day with the same unresolved feelings. You promise yourself that tomorrow will be different. You swear you will not react in anger. You tell yourself you will not collapse under stress. You vow that you will not let anxiety run your mind. Yet when the moment arrives, the old habits return. The sharp word slips out. The worry grows louder. The familiar sadness reappears. And in those moments, you wonder if change is even possible. This is the unseen chain of habit. It binds us quietly, without visible links, yet it is stronger than steel. It is not the problems of the outside world that hold us down most of the time. It is the way we repeat patterns inside. We want to be free, but freedom seems to drift further away each time we try. The modern world fuels this cycle. We live under pressure to succeed, to look good, to always appear in control. Social media flashes images of perfect lives, flawless smiles, endless achievements. Inside, we compare, we judge, we feel less than enough. And when we fail to meet the image, shame grows. Shame turns into anger. Anger turns into despair. Soon, the loop is complete. Thought feeding emotion, emotion feeding thought, until we are exhausted by our own mind. But here is the truth that Buddhist wisdom reveals. The more we fight these feelings, the stronger they grow. When you try to bury anger, it only digs deeper roots. When you run from anxiety, it chases faster. When you deny sadness, it spreads wider. Fighting your inner storms is like struggling in quicksand. The harder you resist, the deeper you sink. Pause for a moment and picture this. A man is caught in a current, thrashing in the river, desperate to escape. Every kick, every push, every desperate movement pulls him under. But when he finally stops fighting, when he lies back and allows the water to carry him, something changes. He floats, he breathes. The river that once threatened his life now holds him up. The difference is not in the river. The difference is in how he relates to it. Our emotions are rivers. They are currents that rise and fall. They are not enemies to be destroyed. They are forces to be understood. Anger is not proof of weakness. Anxiety is not a flaw. Sadness is not failure. They are waves moving through the ocean of our mind. And like any wave, they cannot last forever. The path begins with recognition. Imagine standing in front of a mirror, not to judge, but to simply see. The lines on your face, the weariness in your eyes, the tension in your shoulders. You see without denial, without excuse. That is the first step of freedom, awareness, to notice the habit energy rising, to whisper, I see you, anger. I see you, worry. I see you, sadness. In that moment of recognition, you are no longer fully caught. You create space between who you are and what you feel. But awareness alone is not enough. You must also embrace. This is where most of us stumble, because embracing pain feels unnatural. Why would you want to hold your anger close? Why would you want to sit with your fear? Yet Buddhist practice teaches exactly this. Do not run, do not push away, but hold your emotion like a mother holds a crying child. Picture a baby in distress. Its face red, its body trembling, its voice piercing the air. A mother does not scold the child. She does not ignore it. She lifts it gently, rocks it in her arms, whispers soothing words. She knows that the child's cry is not evil. It is a call for attention. Our emotions cry in the same way. Anger shouts because it is hurt. Anxiety trembles because it feels unsafe. Sadness weeps because it longs for connection. When we embrace them, we begin to listen. When we listen, we begin to heal. Consider this simple practice. The next time anger rises, pause, breathe. Say silently, breathing in, I know anger is here. Breathing out, I smile to my anger. At first it may feel strange, even foolish. But slowly, the fire cools. The chains loosen. Anger no longer controls you. You are no longer the prisoner. You are the witness. The cycle of habit is not broken by force. It is broken by presence. Presence is the key that unlocks the lock. And presence is available in every moment, with every breath. You do not need to wait for a quiet mountain or a distant retreat. You can begin right here, in the middle of your busy life, in the middle of your stress, in the middle of your pain. Each breath is an anchor. Each step is a reminder. Each pause is a chance to return home. Think of the last time you felt consumed by anxiety. Your heart raced. Your mind spun with what-ifs. Your chest felt heavy. Now imagine that in the middle of that storm, you placed your hand on your heart, closed your eyes, and took 3 deep breaths. The problem might not have vanished, but your relationship to it shifted. You found a little space, a little calm. That space is the beginning of freedom. Every habit begins with a seed. Every reaction begins with a trigger. The mind has grooves, like tracks in the dirt. When rain falls, the water follows the same path again and again, deepening the channel. Our emotions work the same way. The more often we react with anger, the easier anger becomes. The more often we respond with fear, the quicker fear appears. But here is the gift. We can dig new channels. We can water new seeds. We can train the Zen mind to walk new paths. This is why mindfulness is revolutionary. It is not simply breathing slowly or sitting quietly. It is choosing in each moment which seeds to water. When irritation arises and you pause instead of snapping, you water the seed of patience. When sadness appears and you comfort yourself instead of denying it, you water the seed of compassion. When anxiety screams and you breathe through it instead of running, you water the seed of courage. Over time, the garden of your mind changes. Old weeds shrink. New flowers grow. You may think, but my habits are too strong. My anger is too deep. My fear is too old. Yet even the hardest soil softens with gentle rain. Even the darkest night gives way to dawn. No habit is eternal. No chain is unbreakable. What is required is patience, presence, and practice. Think of this as training, not fighting. A musician does not become skilled by defeating the piano. He becomes skilled by returning again and again, practicing with attention and care. A runner does not master the race by destroying the track. She masters it by showing up each day, step after step, mile after mile. In the same way, we transform our habits not by force, but by practice, breath by breath, choice by choice. As you listen to these words, perhaps you recognize yourself. Perhaps you see the ways habit energy shapes your days, your relationships, your inner life. Do not be discouraged. Recognition itself is already a victory. To see is to awaken. To awaken is to be free. And so, the journey of breaking unseen chains begins not tomorrow, not in some perfect future, but here, now, in this breath. Every time you choose awareness over reaction, you loosen the grip. Every time you choose compassion over judgment, you break a link. Every time you choose presence over distraction, you step out of the loop. The chains of habit are strong, but your awareness is stronger. Your compassion is stronger. Your true nature is stronger. The path of freedom is open. The invitation is here. And as we continue forward, you will see how this practice not only frees you from your own cycles, but also heals the patterns passed down through generations. We often believe that our struggles are unique, that no one else could understand the weight we carry. But when you look closely, you see that the patterns of suffering are shared. Anger rises in the father who feels unheard. Anxiety stirs in the student facing exams. Sadness takes root in the widow left alone after decades of companionship. Though the details differ, the essence is the same. Habit energy moves through all of us. This is why Buddhist wisdom speaks not just to the individual, but to humanity as a whole. To understand the depth of habit energy, think of a river carved through rock. Over centuries, the water wears a path, deep and unchanging. In the same way, reactions passed down from parents, communities, even entire cultures, shape the grooves of our minds. You may wonder why you snap in anger the way your father once did, or why you withdraw in silence like your mother. These are not coincidences. They are inherited patterns, streams of energy flowing across generations. Yet here lies both the challenge and the miracle. While you cannot change the fact that the river is formed, you can change the way the water flows. Each breath of mindfulness is like placing a stone in the current. Slowly, the water shifts. Slowly, new channels emerge. You are not bound forever by the grooves of the past. You are the gardener of your own future God. Let us take a real example. A young man grows up in a home where anger ruled. His father shouted often. His mother lived in quiet fear. As an adult, he swears he will never repeat this. But when stress mounts, when his boss criticizes him, when bills pile up, the fire erupts. His words cut, his fists clench. Afterward, shame covers him. He feels chained to his family's past. Yet through mindful practice, he learns to pause. He feels the anger rise, places his hand on his chest, breathes deeply. He whispers, "I see you, anger. I will take care of you." The eruption softens. A new seed is watered. Over time, his family line changes. The chain is not passed to his children. His awareness becomes their freedom. This is the power of recognition, joined with compassion. It is not about blame. It is about healing. When you see that your parents, too, were caught in chains, you release the burden of resentment. You stop the cycle of judgment. Instead, you offer understanding. You become the turning point in a story that has been written for generations. But habit energy does not only appear in moments of anger. It hides in subtle ways. The way you reach for your phone at the first hint of boredom. The way you criticize yourself after every mistake. The way you push love away because you fear rejection. These are habits too. They may not explode loudly, but they quietly shape the direction of your life. And just as loudly expressed anger can be transformed, so can these quiet patterns. How? By cultivating what Buddhists call the sacred pause. Each time you catch yourself reaching for distraction, pause. Each time self-criticism arises, pause. Each time you are about to repeat an old reaction, pause. In that pause lies freedom. In that pause, the chain begins to loosen. Let us deepen this with an image. Imagine a bell. In Buddhist practice, the sound of a bell is not noise, but a call to return. Each ring invites you to stop, breathe, and be present. You can use the world around you in the same way. The buzz of your phone, the honk of a car, the cry of a child, each sound can be a bell, reminding you to pause. Instead of being pulled into the storm, you return to your breath, to your center. The world becomes your teacher. Every moment becomes practice. Slowly, your life shifts. Instead of being ruled by unconscious reactions, you live with conscious choice. Instead of drowning in emotion, you float above it with awareness. Instead of repeating inherited pain, you create new patterns of peace. And this is where the heart of Buddhist teaching shines. You are not condemned to repeat suffering forever. The cycle is real, but it is not unbreakable. You are not your anger. You are not your anxiety. You are not your sadness. You are the awareness that sees them. You are the compassion that holds them. You are the presence that transforms them. Think again of the man thrashing in the river. At first, the current seems impossible to resist. But when he lies back, when he trusts the water, he discovers a truth. The river is not his enemy. In the same way, your emotions are not enemies. They are energies. They can drown you, yes, but they can also carry you. The difference lies in how you relate to them. Now imagine carrying this understanding into every part of your daily life. You are late to work. Traffic is heavy. Impatience rises. Instead of honking, instead of cursing, you pause. You breathe. You say, "Hello, impatience. I see you." The grip loosens. You arrive not only at work, but at yourself. Or picture a conversation with a loved one. A sharp word is spoken. The old habit would be to snap back. But you pause, you breathe, you listen. You respond with gentleness. The cycle of conflict is broken. In that moment, peace enters not just you, but the entire relationship. This is how transformation happens, not in grand, dramatic gestures, but in small choices, moment by moment. Each pause is a seed. Each seed grows into a new way of being. Over time, your inner world becomes a garden of peace. And from that garden, something greater blossoms, the ability to face life as it truly is, because life will not stop challenging you. Stress will still come, loss will still hurt, fear will still visit, but with practice, you no longer collapse under them. You meet them with presence. You meet them with compassion. You meet them with freedom. So when you ask, "Can I change? Can I break free from the unseen chains of habit?" The answer is yes. Not by fighting, not by running, but by embracing, by breathing, by pausing, by practicing. The unseen chains of habit are heavy, but they are not permanent. Each breath you take with awareness is a key. Each moment you meet yourself with compassion is a link broken. And as you continue, step by step, you will discover that freedom is not far away. It is here. It is within you. It has always been waiting. And as this first part draws to a close, let the lesson settle in your heart. You are not trapped. You are not powerless. You are capable of change. You are capable of peace. The chains may have bound you for years, even generations, but they cannot bind you forever. Now, with this foundation, we are ready to move forward. For beyond the unseen chains of habit lies another truth, one that speaks of a hidden capacity within each of us, the capacity to listen deeply, to transform suffering not only for ourselves, but for the world. Have you ever longed for someone to truly hear you? Not to fix you, not to advise you, not to judge you, just to listen with full presence. Imagine the relief of being met with silence that carries no agenda, only acceptance. In those rare moments, something inside relaxes. The burden lifts slightly. The storm within begins to calm. That is the power of listening, and it is not limited to others. It is a hidden capacity within each of us, the ability to listen deeply, to ourselves and to the cries of the world. Ancient scriptures tell the story of a compassionate being known as the one who listens to the cries of the world. This figure was not a distant god, but a symbol of our own potential. The message was simple yet profound. Listening itself can heal. We often imagine that healing requires complex solutions. Yet sometimes the most powerful medicine is presence. Think back to a time when someone truly listened to you. Maybe you were a child, nervous after a hard day at school. Maybe you were an adult, carrying the weight of grief. Someone sat with you. Their eyes were soft, their heart open. They did not rush your words. They did not hurry your tears. They allowed you to be. Do you remember how it felt? That feeling of being fully seen is one of the deepest human needs. Now imagine offering that same quality of presence to yourself. This is what Buddhist practice teaches. You carry within you a listener, a silent witness capable of embracing every thought and every emotion. You do not need to escape your inner storms. You need only to listen to them. Let us explore this through a metaphor. Picture a vast sky. Clouds drift across, some light and beautiful, others dark and heavy. If the sky tried to chase away the storm clouds, it would lose its very nature. But the sky does not fight. It holds them all. It allows the storm to come and go. Beneath the thunder, the sky remains unchanged. In the same way, you are not your passing emotions. You are the sky that holds them. The listener within you is vast, unshaken, patient. This does not mean passivity. Listening is an active practice. It requires courage to sit with pain rather than distract yourself. It requires compassion to hear the cries within without judgment. And it requires faith to trust that presence alone can bring transformation. Yet again and again, the practice proves true. When you listen, suffering softens. When you listen, fear loosens. When you listen, anger dissolves into understanding. Consider a woman overwhelmed by anxiety. Her chest is tight. Her mind races. The habit is to escape, to scroll endlessly on her phone, to drink, to run from the feeling. But one evening, she decides to try differently. She sits quietly. She places her hand on her stomach. She breathes. Deeply, she whispers, "I hear you, my fear. I will stay with you." At first, the fear roars louder. But as minutes pass, the waves settle. For the first time, she realizes her anxiety is not a monster. It is a part of her longing to be heard. Listening becomes her doorway to peace. This is the essence of mindfulness, to listen without resistance. A bird sings outside your window. You pause. You hear it fully. A memory of loss arises in your mind. You pause. You hear it fully. A surge of irritation sparks in traffic. You pause. You hear it fully. By listening, you transform life itself into practice. But there is more. Listening is not only for the self. It extends outward, shaping our relationships, our communities, even our world. We live in a time when voices compete, but few truly hear. Social media amplifies noise, but often without understanding. Arguments flare, but hearts remain untouched. What if, instead of debating, we listened? What if we met anger with presence instead of defense? What if we responded to fear with patience instead of dismissal? Let me share a story. A teacher once sat with a group of prisoners, men hardened by years of violence and regret. At first, they resisted. They mocked the silence. They doubted the practice. But the teacher simply listened. Day after day, he sat, patient, open. Slowly, one by one, the prisoners began to speak. They shared stories of childhood pain, of broken homes, of lives shaped by fear. As they spoke, they cried. And in the quiet presence of listening, they found a taste of freedom they had never known. Not freedom from prison walls, but freedom from the prison of silence. This is the miracle of deep listening. It opens space where healing can enter. It does not erase the past, but it changes how the past lives within us. It does not solve every problem, but it transforms the way we meet them. And you might ask, how do we practice deep listening in daily life? Begin simply. Choose one moment each day to listen without agenda. When your child tells you about their day, put down the phone. Look into their eyes. Do not prepare your answer. Just listen. When your partner shares their frustration, resist. The urge to defend. Resist the urge to explain. Just listen. When a colleague voices their stress, do not jump to fix. Just listen. Even more importantly, when your own heart whispers of pain, listen. When sadness knocks, sit quietly and open the door. When anger burns, give it your attention without fear. When joy rises, savor it fully. The listener within you is the healer you have been searching for. Think of this as watering a seed. Each time you listen with presence, you water the seed of compassion. Each time you choose to pause rather than react, you water the seed of peace. Slowly, these seeds grow into strong trees that shade your entire life. They shelter your relationships. They nourish your spirit. They anchor you in storms. and here lies the bridge to the next truth. If listening is the soil, then consciousness is the garden where seeds grow. Within each of us lies not just a listener, but a vast field where countless seeds, both wholesome and unwholesome, await our care. By listening deeply, we begin to choose which seeds to water. And by choosing wisely, we transform the very landscape of our being. The act of listening is not passive, it is alive. It is active. It is transformative. When you listen with your whole being, something shifts, not only in the one being heard, but also within you. You become larger than your habits, wider than your fears, more open than your judgments. Listening stretches the heart until it can hold the cries of the world. This hidden capacity has been with you all along. Too often, it lies buried beneath the noise of daily life. But when you pause, when you breathe, when you turn your attention gently inward, you awaken the listener. At first, it feels delicate, like a candle flame in the wind. But with practice, it becomes steady, unshakable. Like a lighthouse guiding ships through darkness. Let us return to the image of the crying child. When the child cries, the mother listens. First, before she does anything else. Her listening creates safety. Only then can the child calm down enough to be understood. Your emotions are no different. When anger cries inside you, your listening creates safety. When anxiety trembles, your listening creates safety. When grief aches, your listening creates safety. Without safety, no healing is possible. With safety, everything begins to change. Think of a man who has carried guilt for years. He avoids it by working constantly. He avoids it by numbing himself with entertainment. But the guilt remains pressing on him, whispering at night. One evening, exhausted, he decides to sit in silence. He closes his eyes, breathes deeply, and says inwardly, "I am listening." At first, the guilt screams louder. It brings images of past mistakes. It floods him with shame. But he keeps listening. He does not run. He does not fight. Slowly, the storm subsides. For the first time, he feels compassion for himself. He sees that his guilt was not an enemy, but a cry for forgiveness. Listening unlocks the door. Compassion enters. Healing begins. Deep listening also transforms relationships. Picture two friends in conflict. Harsh words have been spoken. Silence has grown between them. Each believes the other does not understand. But one decides to practice. She sits with her friend and says, "I want to listen. Tell me what you feel." At first, the words are sharp, filled with anger, but she does not interrupt. She does not defend. She simply listens. As the minutes pass, the anger softens into sadness, then into longing. For the first time, a friend feels heard. A bridge is built. The conflict begins to dissolve. Imagine what would happen if more of us listened this way. Families would find healing. Communities would find peace. Nations might even avoid war. Because at the root of every conflict is the same wound, the feeling of not being seen, not being heard. Listening is not small. It is revolutionary. But let us bring this power back to you, personally. The listener within you is your constant companion. It never leaves. It is the quiet awareness beneath every thought, the stillness beneath every emotion. Even now, as you hear these words, the listener is awake in you. It is the part of you that knows you are listening. When you touch it, you touch your deepest self. This capacity grows with practice. Begin each day with a moment of listening. Before you reach for your phone, before you step into the rush, sit quietly. Breathe in, breathe out. Ask gently, what is here in me today? Maybe it is joy. Maybe it is sadness. Maybe it is numbness. Whatever appears, listen. No need to fix. No need to change. Just listen. As you do, You will discover that your inner world becomes less threatening, less overwhelming. It becomes a place you can trust. Asterisk, and as your trust in listening grows, so does your strength. When challenges come, you will not collapse. You will not drown. You will meet them with steadiness, because you know that no storm lasts forever. You know that your sky is vast. You know that the listener within you can hold it all. Now let us connect this to the path ahead, for listening is not the end. It is the doorway. Through listening, you begin to notice the seeds within your consciousness. Some seeds bring peace. Others bring suffering. By listening deeply, you learn to recognize them. And by recognizing, you learn to choose. Which seeds will you water today? Which garden will you grow? This is the bridge to the next truth. Listening awakens awareness, but awareness must be guided. To live with freedom, you must tend to the garden of consciousness. You must learn which seeds to nourish and which to let rest. This is not about control. It is about care. It is about cultivating the mind as a gardener cultivates the soil patiently, gently, lovingly. So as we move forward, carry this truth with you. The listener within is real. It is not a theory. It is not a fantasy. It is your deepest self, waiting to be awakened. And when you awaken it, your life changes. You become capable of holding your own suffering. You become capable of holding the suffering of others. You become a presence of healing in a world that longs to be heard. The cries of the world are many. The cries of your heart are many. But you are not powerless before them. You are the listener. You are the vast sky. You are the quiet presence that transforms. And with that foundation, we step into the garden itself, the garden of consciousness, where every seed you water shapes the life you will live. Imagine for a moment that your mind is a vast garden. Some corners are lush with flowers, fragrant with compassion, patience, and joy. Other corners are tangled with weeds, anger, resentment, fear, and despair. Each day, whether you notice it or not, you are tending this garden. Every thought you dwell on, every emotion you feed, every reaction you repeat is like water given to a seed. Over time, the seeds you nurture become the landscape of your inner world. This is not metaphor alone. It is the living reality of consciousness. Buddhist teaching describes the mind as a field where countless seeds are stored. Some seeds bring peace and clarity. Others bring suffering and confusion. Which seeds grow depends entirely on where you place your attention. In this sense, your mind is not fixed. It is alive, ever-changing, shaped by the care or neglect you give it. Consider the seed of anger. Perhaps you encounter it when someone cuts you off in traffic or when a coworker dismisses your ideas. The spark flares quickly. If you pour your attention into it, replaying the insult, imagining revenge, clinging to the offense, you water the seed. It grows stronger. The next time, anger rises even faster. Soon, the weed dominates the garden. But now picture the seed of patience. The same insult comes, the same spark flares. But this time, you breathe. You notice the anger, but you do not feed it. Instead, you silently say, I see my anger, and I will take care of it. In that pause, you water the seed of patience. You choose not to replay the insult, but to return to your breath. Slowly, the weed weakens. Slowly, the flower grows. Over weeks, over months, over years, the very soil of your mind changes. Is the miracle of practice. You are not condemned to live in a garden of weeds. You can choose what grows. You can cultivate compassion instead of cruelty, forgiveness instead of resentment, joy instead of despair. It does not happen instantly. It happens through small acts, repeated daily, like a gardener returning each morning to tend the soil. Think of a farmer. He does not expect crops overnight. He tills the earth, plants the seeds, waters carefully. He knows storms will come, weeds will grow, pests will threaten. Yet with patience, he continues. And in time, the harvest arrives. In the same way, you must tend your consciousness with patience. Storms of anger will come. Weeds of fear will sprout. But if you return again and again to the seeds of mindfulness and compassion, the harvest of peace will come. Here is a practice to make this real. At the end of each day, sit quietly and reflect. Which seeds did I water today? Did I water irritation by repeating complaints? Did I water fear by clinging to worst-case scenarios? Did I water despair by telling myself I am not enough? Or did I water peace by breathing through challenges? Did I water love by offering kindness? Did I water joy by noticing small wonders? This reflection is not for judgment, but for awareness. With awareness, you can choose differently tomorrow. Think of a young woman who struggles with jealousy. Each time her friend succeeds, a pang of envy arises. The old habit is defeated scrolling through photos, comparing, resenting. But through practice, she begins to notice. Here is my jealousy. I will listen. She breathes with it. She does not shame it. She does not indulge it. Slowly, the jealousy weakens. At the same time, she waters the seed of gratitude. She reflects on her own blessings. She smiles at her friend's joy. In time, her garden shifts. Jealousy no longer rules her. Gratitude blooms. Another man struggles with despair. Each failure feels permanent. Each setback convinces him he will never succeed. The old habit is to water hopelessness. But one day, he begins to pause. He notices the despair as a seed. He says gently, "Hello, despair. I see you." Then he chooses to water courage instead. He remembers small victories. He recalls times he endured. Slowly, the garden changes. Where weeds once grew, flowers appear. The garden of consciousness is not a theory. It is as real as soil, as real as rain. Every day you are planting, watering, cultivating. The question is not whether you tend a garden, but what kind of garden you tend. And here lies a deeper truth. No one else can do this for you. Others may inspire you. Teachers may guide you. Friends may support you. But in the end, the watering is yours. The choices are yours. The garden is yours. This is both a responsibility and a gift. The responsibility is clear. If you water anger, anger will grow. If you water fear, fear will grow. If you water despair, despair will grow. But the gift is greater. If you water compassion, compassion will grow. If you water patience, patience will grow. If you water joy, joy will grow. The garden responds faithfully to your care. Let us reflect on this with a simple image. Imagine holding two bowls of water, one clear, one poisoned. Each day, you must choose which seeds to water with which bowl. If you pour poison on the flowers of love, they wither. If you pour clear water on the weeds of hatred, they flourish. But if you reverse the choice clear water for the flowers, no water for the weeds, the balance shifts. Over time, the flowers bloom and the weeds die away. Your consciousness works in exactly this way. This practice is not about perfection. Weeds will always appear. Anger will rise. Fear will visit. Sadness will come. The goal is not to eliminate them forever. The goal is to recognize them as seeds, to choose wisely how much water you give. One drop of awareness is enough to keep them from taking over the field. So, begin today. Notice which seeds are strongest in your garden. Notice which flowers need more care. Notice which weeds have been fed too long. And remember, the garden changes slowly, but it changes surely. As you cultivate this awareness, something remarkable happens. You realize that you are not merely the gardener. You are also the garden itself. Every act of care you give the mind is an act of care you give yourself. Every seed of compassion you water nourishes your very being. Every seed of mindfulness you tend strengthens your freedom. And this leads us naturally to the next truth. For if our consciousness is a garden, then some of the weeds we fight are not even ours. They are inherited patterns passed down through generations, habits carried by ancestors, suffering rooted in histories older than our own lives. To heal fully, we must look not only at the seeds we water today, but also at the legacies we carry. It is easy to believe that every thought and feeling we experience is our own creation. But when we look deeper, we see another truth. Many of the seeds in our consciousness were planted long before we were born. They are the inheritance of generations. The way we react in anger, the way we shrink in fear, the way we doubt our worth, all of these can be echoes of patterns carried by those who came before us. Think of a family where silence is the rule. Parents never speak of pain. Children learn quickly to hide their feelings. Decades later, those children grow into adults who cannot express their needs, who shut down when conflict arises. The habit energy is not personal failure. It is and now inherited seed. Or picture a family where survival meant constant struggle. Generations lived with scarcity, always afraid of not having enough. Years later, descendants feel anxiety around money even when they are secure. The seed has traveled through time. When we recognize this, blame begins to dissolve. We see that our parents, too, were gardeners tending seeds they did not plant. They carried patterns from their parents, who carried patterns from theirs. Anger, fear, shame, these are not curses placed on us, but legacies awaiting transformation. And in this recognition lies compassion. Instead of resenting those who passed us their pain, we can see them as fellow travelers, caught in the same cycles. Take the story of a young woman who always feared abandonment. Every relationship felt fragile. Every silence from her partner felt like rejection. In therapy, she discovered that her grandmother had been left alone during a war, raising children in despair. That fear of abandonment had passed through the family like an invisible thread. When the young woman realized this, her fear softened. She no longer saw herself as broken. She saw herself as carrying a seed planted long ago. Through mindfulness, she began to nurture seeds of trust and security, not only for herself, but for the generations to come. This is the beauty of tending the garden of consciousness. When you transform more than yourself. Each time you choose compassion over anger, you change the story of your lineage. Each time you water patience instead of fear, you heal wounds carried for decades, even centuries. Your practice becomes a gift, not only to you, but to your ancestors and descendants. But how do we actually do this work? The first step is recognition. When a strong emotion arises, ask, is this mine alone, or is it older than me? Sometimes you will sense that the fear, the anger, the despair feels bigger than your personal story. That is a sign it may be inherited. Instead of fighting it, bow to it. Acknowledge the generations behind it. Say quietly, I see you, my ancestors' pain. I will take care of you. In that moment, you become both gardener and healer. The second step is compassion. Remember that your ancestors did not choose these seeds. They too were caught. They too longed for freedom. When you hold compassion for them, resentment fades. You realize you are not their victim, but their continuation. And by practicing mindfulness, you become the one who can set them free. The third step is conscious cultivation. Once you recognize the inherited seeds, you can choose to water different ones. If anger runs in your family, practice patience deliberately. If fear dominates, practice courage daily. If silence reigns, practice honest speech. Every time you choose differently, you plant a new seed. And in time, the soil of your lineage changes. This is not abstract. Imagine a father who grew up in a home filled with violence. He carries the seed of rage. At first, he repeats the cycle with his children, but through practice, he learns to pause. He learns to breathe. One day, when anger rises, he stops. He kneels down. He embraces his child instead of shouting. In that moment, the chain breaks. His children inherit not rage, but love. The garden changes forever. Think of the power in this. By transforming your own mind, you heal the past and shape the future. You do not carry this responsibility alone. It is not a burden, but a gift. You are the gardener who chooses. You are the ancestor your descendants will thank. This vision brings both humility and hope. Humility, because we see that much of our suffering is not our fault. Hope, because we see that much of our freedom is in our hands. The garden of consciousness is vast, but every act of mindful care reshapes it. So let us reflect once more. Which seeds will you water? Which weeds will you allow to wither? Which flowers will you grow for the sake of those who will follow you? The answer unfolds in every breath, in every choice, in every act of awareness. You do not need to change everything at once. You only need to begin. Water one seed of compassion today. Water one seed of patience tomorrow. Over time, the garden will bloom. And as it blooms, the fragrance of peace will spread across generations. So the teaching is clear. Consciousness is not a fixed prison, but a living field. You are the gardener. You inherit seeds, yes, but you also inherit the power to choose. Each act of awareness is a drop of water. Each drop shapes the future. This understanding, we step into the next truth. For if our consciousness is a garden, and if many of its seeds are inherited, then part of our task is to meet these legacies with compassion, to go beyond blame, to transform inherited patterns into pathways of freedom. This is the next step of our journey. When something painful rises within us, our first instinct is often to look for someone to blame. We point to our parents, our partners, our past circumstances, even ourselves. We say, if only they had done better, I wouldn't suffer like this. Or, if only I had been stronger, wiser, more disciplined, my life would be different. Blame feels natural. It gives us a target for our pain. But beneath the surface, blame becomes another chain that binds us. It keeps us trapped in cycles of anger and resentment. It keeps old wounds alive. To move toward freedom, we must learn a different way. Buddhist wisdom invites us to see that many of the patterns we struggle with are not personal failings, but inherited legacies. They are habit energies that have flowed through generations. When we recognize this, something softens. The sharp edges of blame begin to dissolve. We see that our parents, too, were caught. Their harsh words, their fears, their mistakes were not only theirs, they were echoes of pain passed down through time. Imagine a young man who lashes out in anger when stressed. He hates this part of himself. He blames his father for raising him with shouting and criticism. He blames himself for repeating the cycle. But one day, through meditation, he remembers his grandfather, a man hardened by war, carrying trauma. In silence, he realizes that the anger in his father was not born in him, but inherited from his own father. Suddenly, compassion begins to grow. The young man no longer sees himself as cursed or broken. He sees himself as part of a story that stretches back through generations. With this vision, he discovers the freedom to write a new chapter. This shift from blame to compassion is not about denying harm. It is not about excusing destructive behavior. It is about understanding. When we see that others acted from their own wounds, we can hold their actions with clarity without being poisoned by hatred. We can still set boundaries. We can still speak truth. But we do so from a place of peace, not from a cycle of blame. Think of resentment like a burning coal. Each time we hold onto it, we burn ourselves. We think we are punishing the one who hurt us, but we are the ones in pain. Letting go of blame is like setting the coal down. The scar remains, but the burning stops. This is the gift of compassion, not forgiveness as forced forgetting, but forgiveness as the choice to stop carrying fire. To practice this, begin with reflection. Sit quietly and bring to mind someone who has hurt you. Notice the emotions that arise: anger, sadness, fear. Instead of pushing them away, breathe with them. Then ask gently, what pain might this person have been carrying when they hurt me? You may remember their struggles, their losses, their own wounds. This does not excuse the harm. It simply reveals the humanity beneath it. In that recognition, compassion begins to flow. Another practice is to extend compassion backward through time. Imagine your parent as a child, small and vulnerable. Imagine the hardships they endured. See how the seeds of suffering were planted in them long before they reached you. Whisper silently, I see your pain. I will not continue this cycle. In that moment, you transform not only your relationship to them, but also your relationship to yourself. When you heal in this way, you do not erase the past, but you release its hold on your present. You stop being a victim of history. You become a participant in healing. This is why the Buddha taught that to understand all is to forgive. All not as a command, but as a natural unfolding of deep understanding. Consider a woman who grew up in a home of silence. Her mother never expressed love. Her father rarely spoke. For years, she carried resentment. Why did they never show me affection? Why did they keep their hearts closed? But through mindfulness practice, she saw the truth. Her mother was raised in a family where survival meant silence. Her father was taught that emotion was weakness. They were not withholding love. They simply did not know how to express it. With this understanding, her resentment softened. She still acknowledged the pain, but she no longer carried the heavy chain of blame. Instead, she chose to open her own heart, to give her children the affection she never received. In doing so, she healed the past through the present. This path is not easy. The habits of blame are deep. Society encourages them. Headlines cry out for vengeance. Cultures are built on cycles of retaliation. But if we look honestly, we see that blame rarely brings peace. It brings more division, more violence, more pain. The cycle continues until someone chooses compassion. Compassion is not weakness. It does not mean ignoring injustice. It means meeting injustice with clarity and love rather than hatred and revenge. It means saying, I will stop the cycle here. In this way, compassion becomes an act of courage, a form of resistance against suffering itself. Think of water falling on fire. Anger burns. Resentment scorches. But compassion cools the flames. When you practice compassion, even toward those who have hurt you, you are not condoning their actions. You are choosing not to burn with them. You are choosing peace. This practice also extends inward. Many of us carry deep self-blame. We punish ourselves for mistakes, for failures, for weaknesses. We say, if only I had been stronger, my life would be different. But when we look deeper, we see that even our mistakes often arise from inherited patterns, from pain we did not choose. This realization invites self-compassion. You can say to yourself, I see my suffering. I see that it is not only mine. I choose to treat myself with kindness. Imagine a man addicted to alcohol. For years, he blamed himself. He called himself weak, hopeless. But in therapy, he learned that his father drank to escape trauma, and his grandfather before him did the same. The habit was a river flowing through generations. When he saw this, his shame softened. He realized his struggle was not a sign of weakness, but an inherited pain. With this clarity, he sought help. He began to heal. And in healing, he broke the cycle for his children. Asterisk, this is the gift of moving beyond blame. We reclaim our power. As long as we blame, we remain trapped in the past. But when we recognize, understand, and choose compassion, we step into the present. We become free to create a new future. And this freedom extends beyond the personal. Entire societies carry inherited pattern cycles of violence, prejudice, division. When groups blame one another, wars erupt, hatred multiplies. But when individuals and communities practice compassion, healing begins. It does not happen overnight, but every act of compassion is a seed planted in the soil of humanity. One day, those seeds will grow into peace. So let us carry this teaching in our daily lives. The next time you feel the urge to blame, pause. Breathe. Remember, this pattern may be older than you. This pain may have been carried through generations. You can choose compassion. You can choose understanding. You can choose freedom. And as you choose, remember, you are not only healing yourself, you are healing those who came before you. You are healing those who will come after you. You are transforming the river of inheritance into a flow of peace. This is how we go beyond blame. This is how we transform inherited patterns. And this is how we step closer to true freedom. As we prepare to move forward, let us turn toward the next truth. For once we recognize the power of compassion to heal the past, we must also learn how to find a home in the present. Not a home of bricks and walls, but a sanctuary within ourselves. A place we can return to no matter where life takes us. The moment we stop blaming is the moment we begin to breathe differently. The chest feels lighter, the heart softens. Space opens where tightness once lived. But letting go of blame is not something we do once and forget. It is a daily practice. The inherited patterns of anger and resentment are strong. They will rise again and again. Each time they appear, we must meet them with awareness and compassion, choosing again not to carry the burning coal. Consider the story of a son who blamed his father for years. His father had been absent, distant, unable to show love. The son carried the wound into adulthood, feeling unworthy, feeling unloved. Every mistake in his life became proof that his father's neglect had ruined him. But through meditation, the son began to see his father differently. He pictured his father as a small boy, standing in a house filled with shouting, punished. For every mistake, never once hugged. He realized that his father's silence was not cruelty, but fear. His father had never been taught how to express love. This insight did not erase the pain of the son's childhood, but it did dissolve the poison of blame. For the first time, he felt compassion for the boy his father once was. And in that compassion, he began to heal. This is the power of perspective. When we see the humanity behind harmful actions, we break the illusion that people are monsters. We see that they are suffering beings, often repeating what they once endured. This does not mean we allow harm to continue. Boundaries are necessary. Justice is necessary. But when we act from understanding instead of blame, our actions are wiser, cleaner, and more likely to bring real healing. Blame is easy. Compassion is harder. But compassion is the only path that leads to peace. Think of two nations locked in conflict. Each blames the other for violence. Each carries generations of resentment. Hatred deepens. War continues. But imagine if even a small group within one nation began to practice compassion. Imagine if they said, "We will not carry the resentment of our ancestors. We will choose understanding." That single seed could grow into movements of reconciliation. History shows us that such transformations are possible. Leaders of peace, have emerged in the darkest times, carrying compassion like a torch. They show us that blame may be the instinct, but compassion is the revolution. This revolution must begin within us. Each time we choose compassion over blame, we contribute to the healing of humanity. Our small act ripples outward. A parent who chooses compassion instead of resentment raises children with softer hearts. A teacher who chooses compassion instead of blame inspires students to trust themselves. A leader who chooses compassion instead of retaliation builds communities of cooperation instead of division. So how do we cultivate this shift? The first practice is mindfulness of blame itself. The next time you feel yourself saying, "This is all their fault," pause. Notice the heat in your body, the story in your mind. Instead of diving deeper into the narrative, step back, breathe, say quietly, "This is blame. I see it. I do not need to feed it." That simple recognition creates space. The second practice is compassion meditation. Sit quietly, bring to mind someone you blame. Visualize them as a small child. See their vulnerability, their innocence. Whisper phrases such as, "May you be free from suffering. May you know peace. May you learn to love." At first, these words may feel hollow, but with repetition, the heart begins to shift. The rigid wall of blame softens into the possibility of understanding. The third practice is self-compassion. Blame often turns inward. We carry guilt for years, punishing ourselves long after others have forgotten. To heal, we must learn to speak kindly to ourselves. Place your hand on your heart and say, "I forgive you. I see your pain. I know you are doing your best with the seeds you inherited." These words can release decades of self-punishment. They remind us that healing is not only for others, it is for us too. When we live this way, blame loses its grip. Instead of pointing fingers outward or inward, we choose to look deeper. We see pain where we once saw only malice. We see suffering where we once saw only fault. And in that vision, compassion becomes the natural response. To go beyond blame is to reclaim freedom. It is to say, "I will not let the past control me. I will not let anger define me. I will not carry hatred into the future." This choice does not erase what happened. It does not mean we forget. It means we stop giving our energy to cycles of suffering. It means we invest our energy in healing instead. Imagine standing in a long line of ancestors stretching back through time. Each one carried seeds of pain, seeds of anger, seeds of blame. Each one passed them forward, knowingly or unknowingly. And then imagine yourself stepping out of that line, placing your hands on your heart and saying, "The cycle ends with me." That declaration is powerful. It transforms the past. It reshapes the future. It makes you not only a survivor of suffering, but a healer of it. This is the invitation of Buddhist wisdom: to stop repeating the same stories of blame and to begin telling new stories of compassion. To look at the patterns we inherited and say, "I choose differently." To honor the pain of our ancestors while freeing our descendants from carrying it further. And so, as we close this part of the journey, let us carry one truth with us. Healing begins where blame ends. Beyond blame lies understanding. Beyond understanding lies compassion. And beyond compassion lies freedom. From here, the path leads us to another discovery, that even when the world outside feels unstable, even when blame has been transformed into compassion, we still long for a place of safety. We long for a home. Not just the house we live in, not just the land we come from, but a true home that no one can take away. And this home, as we shall see, has been within us all along. There are moments in life when we feel lost, untethered, as if we do not belong anywhere. Perhaps you have felt it during a move to a new city, sitting in a strange apartment with no familiar sounds or faces. Perhaps you have felt it in the middle of a crowd, surrounded by people but unable to shake the sense of isolation. Or perhaps you have felt it even in your own house, where walls and furniture are familiar, but the heart feels restless, uneasy, searching for something unnamed. We tell ourselves that home is a physical place, a set of coordinates on a map, a roof and four walls. But what happens when that place is taken from us? What happens when the house burns down, when war drives us away, when family fractures, when circumstances force us into exile? If home is only an address, then peace will always be fragile, always dependent on things beyond our control. But there is another kind of home. Buddhist wisdom teaches that true home is not where you go. It is what you cultivate. It is not built with bricks, but with breath. It is not found in geography, but in presence. True home is the capacity to arrive fully in the present moment, no matter where you are. It is the unshakable sanctuary within you, a place of peace no one can take away. Imagine a teacher exiled from his homeland. For decades, he longed to return. His memories were full of the rivers, the fields, the laughter of his childhood. But the gates remained closed, the land beyond reach. At first, the longing became suffering. Each day away was a wound. But slowly, through practice, he discovered something extraordinary. Home was not in the distant country he could not touch. Home was in the breath he could feel right now. Home was in the step he took with full awareness. Home was in the smile he shared with a friend. By returning to the present moment, he found that exile could not take his true home from him. Think about what this means for us today. Many of us feel like exiles in our own lives. We live far from peace, far from rest, far from belonging. We search for home in success, in relationships, in possessions. But the more we chase, the more restless we become. The answer is not out there. It is within. With every mindful breath, we can return home. With every conscious step, we can arrive. Try this simple practice. Sit comfortably. Breathe in and say silently, "I have arrived." Breathe out and say, "I am home." Repeat it slowly, letting the words sink into your body. At first, it may feel like just words. But with time, something shifts. The body relaxes. The mind settles. The heart softens. You realize that you are no longer waiting for life to begin. You are living fully here and now. When you carry this home inside, the world changes. You no longer panic when circumstances shift. You no longer feel broken when relationships end. You no longer fear the unknown, because home is not outside you. It is you. It is the present moment awareness that no storm can destroy. Picture yourself walking through a forest. The path is unfamiliar. The trees are tall. At first, anxiety stirs. Where am I? Where will this lead? But then you pause. You breathe deeply. You notice the sound of birds, the crunch of leaves beneath. Your feet, the light filtering through the branches. Suddenly, the forest is no longer strange. It is home. Your breath has made it so. Or picture yourself sitting in a crowded airport, delayed for hours. Noise surrounds you. People rush in every direction. The old habit is to feel frustrated, restless, trapped. But you remember, home is in the breath. You close your eyes, inhale deeply, exhale slowly. You whisper inwardly, "I have arrived. I am home." And just like that, the airport becomes a sanctuary. Peace is no longer postponed. Peace is here. This practice does not erase pain. Grief will still visit. Loss will still hurt. But when you have a home inside, grief does not destroy you. You can welcome it like a guest, offer it a seat, listen to its message, and let it move on. You remain rooted, grounded, safe. The tragedy of modern life is that many of us live as refugees from the present moment. We run from place to place, task to task, thought to thought, never arriving. We tell ourselves that peace will come tomorrow, after we finish the project, after we make enough money, after we find the right partner. But tomorrow never comes. The home we long for will not appear in the future. It is waiting in the now dot, so let us ask, where is your true home? Is it in the house you grew up in? The city you left behind? The dream of where you hope to be? Or is it in the simple act of breathing in this moment, fully aware, fully alive? The answer changes everything. Because when you find home within, you discover freedom. No exile can take it away. No loss can erase it. No circumstance can destroy it. Home is not fragile. Home is eternal, because it is the presence of your own awakened heart dot. And from this foundation, something beautiful unfolds. When you live in your true home, you are able to see the world differently. Each sound, each sight, each breath becomes a doorway back to peace. Even noise can become a bell calling you home. Even chaos can become a reminder to return. This is where the path naturally leads us next, learning to use sound not as distraction, but as a sacred pause, a gateway to presence dot. To find a true home within yourself is to discover a refuge that cannot be shaken. This refuge is not built of wood or stone. It does not depend on borders, governments, or possessions. It exists in the living rhythm of your breath, in the stillness of your awareness, in the gentle stability of presence. When you recognize this home, a remarkable peace arises, even in the most difficult conditions. Think of the countless people who have lived through exile, imprisonment, or displacement. Many lost their houses, their villages, their countries. Yet some discovered that while the world outside was unstable, the sanctuary inside was unshakable. One teacher described it as carrying an island of peace in every step. No matter where he walked through foreign streets, through crowded airports, even through the uncertainty of exile, he could touch the ground of home with mindful breathing. This truth is revolutionary because it frees us from the illusion that peace depends on perfect circumstances. The modern world constantly tells us that happiness is elsewhere, in the next purchase, in the next vacation, in the next relationship. But when you live as if peace is always ahead of you, you live as a perpetual exile, forever chasing, never arriving. To return home to the present moment is to end the chase. It is to realize that what you seek has already been given. Practice this whenever you feel restless. Place your hand gently on your chest. Breathe in and say silently, I have arrived. Breathe out and say, I am home. With each repetition, feel your body soften. Notice how the tension releases. Notice how the mind slows down. You may still be in a noisy office, a stressful family gathering, or a crowded subway car, but your heart is resting in its home. And this is not selfish practice. When you rest in your true home, others feel it. Your calm becomes their calm. Your stability becomes their anchor. Think of how children cling to a parent's hand in a storm. If the parent panics, the children feel more afraid. But if the parent stays steady, the children feel safe, even if the storm continues. When you dwell in your true home, you become that steady presence for others. The image of home also transforms how we meet suffering. Without a home inside, pain throws us into chaos. Anxiety feels unbearable. Grief feels endless. Anger feels explosive. But when we have a home within, we can welcome these visitors with compassion. Grief can enter, sit down, and be heard. Anger can speak its piece without destroying us. Anxiety can tremble without pushing us into panic. In the home of awareness, every guest is received with kindness. Imagine your awareness as a spacious living room. Emotions arrive like visitors knocking at the door. You do not slam the door in their faces, nor do you let them take over the house. You open the door, invite them in, offer them tea, and listen. In time, they leave. Some stay longer than others, but none remain forever. This is the strength of having a true home. You are the host, not the hostage. There is also joy in this. Home. Joy in small things, the taste of tea, the sound of rain, the smile of a stranger. When you live in your true home, you notice these moments that once slipped past. You no longer postpone happiness. You no longer wait for a perfect future. You discover that joy is woven into the fabric of ordinary life. One afternoon, a woman sat by her window drinking tea. Outside, rain tapped gently against the glass. For years, she had ignored such moments, too busy chasing tasks. But through practice, she had learned to return home. On that day, as she breathed with the rain, she realized she was happier than she had ever been in her pursuits of success. The rain, the tea, the breath, this was home. This was enough. When we understand this, we live differently. We no longer measure life by achievements alone. We measure it by presence. We no longer seek only to acquire. We seek to arrive. And in arriving, we touch the freedom that has been waiting all along. This is why the practice of coming home to ourselves is not optional. It is essential. In a world that pushes us outward, we must turn inward. In a society that measures worth by speed and productivity, we must reclaim stillness. In a culture that teaches us to chase, we must learn to arrive. And yet, even with this understanding, daily life can pull us away. Noise surrounds us. Distractions multiply. The mind wanders. This is why we need reminder signals that call us back to the present, bells that invite us home again and again. These reminders can come from anywhere. The sound of a church bell, the ring of a phone, even the hum of traffic. When we use them as invitations to pause, breathe, and return, the whole world becomes a teacher. So let us carry this lesson forward. You have a true home, unshakable and eternal, within your own awareness. No exile can take it away. No loss can erase it. Each breath is a key to its door. Each step is a path leading back. And as we step into the next part of our journey, we will see how the very sounds of daily life can become bells of mindfulness, sacred pauses that bring us home to this sanctuary again and again. Our modern lives are filled with noise. The constant hum of traffic, the ring of phones, the chatter of television, the endless notifications that blink and buzz on our screens. We live in a world where silence feels rare, where every moment seems to demand attention. And yet, hidden inside this very noise is an unexpected gift, the invitation to return to ourselves. In Buddhist practice, sound is not only background, it is a doorway. The ring of a bell, the chime of a clock, even the cry of a bird can be used as reminders to pause and come home. These sounds are not interruptions. They are calls to presence. When we hear them with awareness, they become sacred pauses, moments of stillness in the middle of our busy lives. Think of the sound of a bell. In many traditions, a bell is not struck for noise, but for awakening. Its vibration carries clarity, cutting through the fog of distraction. When a bell rings in a temple, practitioners stop whatever they are doing. They put down their tools, their thoughts, their conversations. They breathe, they smile, they return to themselves. The bell is not a command. It is an invitation. But you do not need a temple bell to practice. Any sound can serve as your bell of mindfulness. The ring of your phone, the beep of a microwave, the horn of a car, even the laughter of a child. Instead of reacting automatically, you can train yourself to use these sounds as reminders. Stop, breathe, come back home. Try this simple practice. The next time your phone rings, do not rush to answer. Let it ring once. Breathe in. Let it ring twice. Breathe out. Then pick it up. In those few seconds, you transform a distraction into meditation. You arrive fully before you respond. Over time, you begin to look forward to these sounds because they are no longer pulling you away, but guiding you back. This practice may seem small, but its effects are profound. Without it, noise fuels our restlessness. With it, noise becomes a teacher. Each sound becomes a bell of awakening. Each moment becomes an opportunity to pause and touch peace. Consider a man living in a noisy city. At first, the constant honking, construction, and shouting irritated him. He longed for silence, believing peace was impossible in such chaos. But then he began to practice listening differently. Every time he heard a horn, he paused and breathed. Every time he heard a siren, he said silently, "I am here." Slowly, the city changed. It did not become quieter, but he became calmer. What once was annoyance became reminder. The very noise that once trapped him became the rhythm of his practice. This is the power of the sacred pause. It transforms life itself into meditation. You no longer need to wait for perfect conditions to practice. You do not need a mountain, a retreat, or a monastery. You need only a sound, a breath, a moment of awareness. Think about how this could change your daily routine. You wake in the morning to the alarm clock. Instead of groaning, you breathe with it. Breathing in, I awaken to a new day. Breathing out, I smile. You drive to work. A red light appears. Instead of tapping the wheel impatiently, you pause. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I release my tension. You hear laughter in the distance. Instead of ignoring it, you pause. Breathing in, I share this joy. Breathing out, I rest in gratitude. With each pause, your life shifts. Stress loosens its grip. Anxiety finds less room to grow. Peace enters, not because the world has changed, but because you have changed how you meet it. The sacred pause also trains the nervous system. In a world that pushes us toward constant reaction, this practice rewires the mind. Instead of reacting automatically to every sound, you respond with intention. Over time, the body learns a new rhythm, slower, calmer, more grounded. Your baseline changes from restlessness to peace. Science confirms this. Studies show that pausing to breathe lowers stress hormones, slows the heartbeat, and calms the nervous system. But long before science measured these effects, wisdom traditions already knew. They taught that each bell, each sound, each pause was a medicine. A medicine for the body, a medicine for the mind, a medicine for the soul. One practitioner described it this way: "At first, I thought the bell was interrupting me. I was annoyed. But then I realized the bell was saving me. It was saving me from rushing, from forgetting, from living half alive. Each ring reminded me that this moment is precious. Each ring gave me back my life." This is the truth we so often forget. Life is made of moments. When we rush through them, distracted and restless, we miss life itself. But when we pause, even for a breath, we reclaim life. We return to the miracle of being alive. Let us practice together right now. Imagine a gentle bell ringing. Hear its sound fade into silence. As it fades, breathe in deeply, aware of your breath. Breathe out slowly, smiling softly. That is all. In that single pause, you have touched your true home. Carry this with you. The next time you hear a sound, any sound, let it be your bell. Let it remind you that peace is always one breath away. And as you deepen this practice, you will discover something more. The sacred pause does not only transform your own life, it transforms how you meet others. In the middle of conflict, you can pause before speaking. In the middle of stress, you can pause before reacting. In the middle of fear, you can pause before collapsing. Each pause becomes an act of compassion, a gift of presence to yourself and those around you. This is how sound, once seen as distraction, becomes a gateway. This is how noise, once seen as obstacle, becomes a teacher. And this is how, even in the busiest, loudest, most chaotic life, peace can always be found. From here, the path leads us naturally forward. Because once we learn to pause in daily life, we are ready for the deeper challenge, meeting adversity itself. Not just noise, not just distraction, but real conflict, real suffering, real harm. The question becomes, can we meet even those moments? With peace? Can we transform adversity into opportunity? This is the way of the true warrior, not one who fights with weapons, but one who conquers with compassion. The sacred pause seems simple, but its power is tested most deeply when life becomes difficult. It is one thing to pause when the phone rings or when the traffic light turns red. It is another to pause when anger surges in a heated argument, when fear shakes the body in crisis, or when grief threatens to overwhelm. These are the true trials of practice. And yet, they are also the moments when the pause becomes most transformative. Imagine a woman in the middle of a bitter dispute with her partner. The old habit would be to shout back, to defend, to attack. But she remembers her practice. She pauses. She breathes in, feels the heat of anger in her chest. She breathes out, whispers silently, "I am here." In that single pause, the fight shifts. She is no longer ruled by reaction. She is guided by awareness. The words she speaks afterward are softer, clearer, more compassionate. The conflict is not erased, but the cycle of harm is broken. Or picture a man at work, humiliated by his supervisor in front of colleagues. His body shakes with shame and rage. His mind races with plans for revenge. But he recalls the sacred pause. He takes 3 breaths before responding. In those breaths, the storm calms slightly. Instead of lashing out, he chooses silence. Later, with a steady mind, he addresses the issue constructively. The pause has saved him from deep regret. The sacred pause is not a retreat. It is not weakness. It is strength. It is the strength to resist being dragged into automatic reactions. It is the courage to meet adversity with clarity rather than chaos. In every pause, we reclaim freedom. Let us look at grief. When a loved one dies, the heart shatters. Waves of sorrow crash again and again. The mind wants to escape, to bury the pain in busyness or numbness. But the practice of pausing invites us to sit gently with grief, to breathe with it, to listen to it. This does not make the pain vanish, but it makes the pain bearable. It transforms grief into love remembered, into gratitude for what was shared. In the pause, grief becomes teacher instead of tormentor. The same is true for fear. Imagine standing before an uncertain future, a medical diagnosis, a financial crisis, a relationship on the edge of collapse. Fear screams in the mind. The body trembles. But instead of collapsing, you pause. You breathe. You whisper inwardly, "Fear is here. I am holding it." The fear does not disappear, but you are no longer drowning in it. You are standing steady in the storm. The pause has given you space, and in that space, courage arises. Is the secret of the sacred pause. It creates space. Space between stimulus and response. Space between thought and action. Space where freedom is born. Without space, we are prisoners of habit. With space, we are masters of choice. Practice this in small ways, and it becomes available in big ways. Each time you pause for a phone ring, you are training. Each time you pause for a red light, you are training. Each time you pause for the cry of a bird, you are training. And when life delivers its storms, the training carries you. The pause is there, ready, strong. One practitioner described it this way: "At first, I thought pausing was useless. What can one breath change?" But after years of practice, I realized that one breath changes everything. It changes the path of anger. It changes the course of fear. It changes the destiny of my day. The sacred pause is not about denying emotion. It is about embracing emotion with awareness. When you pause, you are not suppressing anger, fear, or grief. You are saying, I see you. I will not abandon you. I will hold you until you soften. This is compassion in action. And this compassion extends outward. When you pause in the middle of conflict, you offer peace not only to yourself, but to others. Your calm becomes a mirror. Your stillness becomes contagious. In families, in workplaces, in communities, the sacred pause can shift the entire atmosphere. Imagine a community torn by disagreement. Voices rise, tempers flare. But one person pauses. One person breathes. One person speaks with calm. Suddenly, the energy changes. Others soften. Dialogue opens. Healing begins. The pause of one becomes the gift of many. This is why the sacred pause is not a small practice. It is revolutionary. It transforms not only the individual, but the collective. It shows us that peace is possible, even in the midst of noise, even in the heart of conflict, even in the storms of life. So let us carry this with us. Every sound, every challenge, every moment can become our bell. Each ring is an invitation. Each pause is a return. Each breath is a homecoming. And as we conclude this part of the journey, remember, you are never far from peace. No matter how chaotic the world becomes, no matter how strong the storms of emotion, peace is always one breath away. The sacred pause is the key. Use it, and the door to freedom opens. From here, the path leads us into even deeper waters. For once we learn to pause, we must face the larger truth, suffering itself. Why does it exist? Why do we feel trapped again and again? And is there a way beyond it? To answer these questions, we turn to the heart of Buddhist teaching, the understanding of suffering, and the path that leads to its end. To live is to encounter suffering. We may try to avoid it, disguise it, or bury it, but sooner or later, it meets us face to face. It shows up in the form of stress, disappointment, loss, and fear. It appears when the body falls ill, when relationships fracture, when dreams collapse, when death takes someone we love. No matter how hard we work to build walls of comfort and security, suffering finds its way through. It is not a punishment, not a mistake, not a sign of weakness. It is simply a part of being alive. The Buddha began his teaching with this truth. He did not promise a life free from hardship. He did not offer escape into fantasy. He looked directly at the human condition and said, there is suffering. By naming it, he gave us the courage to face what we usually deny. By acknowledging it, he opened the path to freedom. For what we refuse to face will always control us. But what we meet with awareness can be transformed. Think of suffering like a shadow. It follows us whether we want it or not. If we try to run, the shadow runs too. If we turn away, it clings to our back. But if we turn to face it, something changes. We see its shape. We understand its source. And once understood, the shadow no longer terrifies us. It is simply part of our being, not the whole of it. Modern life often teaches us to avoid suffering at all costs. We are told to stay busy, to entertain ourselves, to consume endlessly, to numb our pain with distractions. But avoidance does not heal. It only delays. The wound grows deeper while we look the other way. True freedom begins when we stop running and turn towards suffering with courage. Let us reflect on the many forms suffering takes. There is the suffering of change. We cling to what we love, but time takes it away. Youth fades. Health declines. Relationships evolve. Jobs end. The ground beneath us is never still. There is the suffering of desire, the endless wanting that leaves us restless, unsatisfied, always reaching for more. There is the suffering of comparison, looking at others, and believing we are less successful, less attractive, less worthy. And there is the suffering of ignorance, not seeing clearly, living trapped in illusions that keep us bound. Each of us knows these intimately. Perhaps you know the sting of betrayal, the ache of loneliness, the anxiety of uncertainty. Perhaps you have tried to bury these feelings under work, entertainment, or possessions. But deep down, you know they remain. The Buddha's invitation is not to escape them, but to see them clearly, to understand them, and through that understanding, to transform them. Picture a woman who loses her job. At first, she feels devastated, convinced her worth is gone. Fear grips her chest. She lashes out at those around her. But one day, she sits quietly and breathes with her pain. She sees that her suffering is not just about the job. It is about her attachment to security, her fear of failure, her belief that she is defined by her career. This insight does not magically give her a new job, but it transforms her relationship to the loss. Instead of drowning in despair, she begins to see possibility. Suffering has become teacher. This is the heart of Buddhist wisdom. Suffering is not the enemy. It is the doorway to awakening. Just as a wound, when tended, becomes the place where healing enters, suffering becomes the place where compassion, understanding, and freedom can grow. But to walk through this doorway, we must first practice awareness. Instead of reacting blindly to pain, we pause and observe. When stress arises, we breathe and notice. This is stress. When anger burns, we whisper. This is anger. When grief weighs heavy, we acknowledge. This is grief. In naming the suffering, we separate from it. We are no longer completely caught. We create space for understanding. Then comes investigation. We ask gently, what is the root of this suffering? Often, we discover it is not the event itself, but our relationship to it. The illness hurts, but our fear of it multiplies the pain. The loss wounds, but our refusal to accept it deepens the suffering. The insult stings, but our clinging to pride makes it unbearable. By seeing the root, we loosen the grip. Finally, we practice compassion. We hold our suffering the way a mother holds a crying child. We do not scold it. We do not abandon it. We hold it tenderly until it softens. In this way, suffering itself becomes the ground where love grows. Consider the story of a monk who was imprisoned unjustly. Beaten, humiliated, stripped of freedom. He might have drowned in anger and despair, yet he practiced. Each day, he breathed with his pain. Each day, he met his suffering with compassion. Years later, when released, he said, "The greatest danger was not losing my life. The greatest danger was losing my compassion." His suffering became the ground of his awakening. This is not extraordinary. It is possible for each of us. You may not be imprisoned, but you may feel trapped in stress, in grief, in fear. The same practice applies. Breathe with it. Name it. Understand it. Hold it with compassion. Slowly, suffering shifts from enemy to teacher, from prison to path. Here lies the deeper truth. Suffering is not separate from joy. They are two sides of the same coin. Without hunger, we would not appreciate food. Without loss, we would not cherish love. Without suffering, compassion could not bloom. The goal is not to eliminate suffering completely. That is impossible. The goal is to transform our relationship to it so that it no longer enslaves us, but guides us toward wisdom. So let us carry this understanding. The next time pain arises, do not turn away. Pause. Breathe. Say, "This is suffering. I will take care of you." In that simple act, you step onto the path of freedom. And from here, the path unfolds into something greater. For the Buddha, did not only reveal the existence of suffering, he revealed its causes, its possibility of ending, and the path that leads there. This teaching is known as the Four Noble Truths, the map that guides us from suffering to liberation. The Buddha's wisdom about suffering was not limited to naming it. He offered a map, clear and simple, known as the Four Noble Truths. These truths are not dogma. They are observations about life realities we can test for ourselves. When understood deeply, they transform the way we live. The first truth we have already touched: there is suffering. To deny it is to live in illusion. To face it is the beginning of freedom. The second truth reveals the cause. Suffering arises from craving and attachment. We suffer not only because of pain itself, but because we cling to things that are always changing. We want permanence in a world of impermanence. We want certainty in a life of uncertainty. We want control over what cannot be controlled. This mismatch between desire and reality creates the tension we call suffering. Imagine someone who falls in love. At first, there is joy, beauty, connection. But soon, fear creeps in. Fear of losing the beloved, fear of change, fear of rejection. The love itself is real, but the clinging to it creates suffering. Or think of money. Having enough brings comfort, but craving more without end breeds anxiety. The problem is not love or money themselves. It is the attachment that chains us. The third truth offers hope. Because suffering has a cause, it can also have an end. When craving softens, suffering softens. When attachment loosens, peace arises. This is not theory. It is something you can taste in daily life. Remember a time when you finally let go of something you had clung to. Perhaps it was a grudge, perhaps a failed dream, perhaps the illusion of control. The moment you released it, relief followed. That relief is a glimpse of freedom. The fourth truth shows the path, the Noble Eightfold Path, a way of living that leads to liberation. This path is not a set of rigid rules. It is a guide for cultivating wisdom, ethical living, and mindful awareness. It is a way to transform daily life into practice. Let us walk through it together. Right view, seeing life clearly, understanding impermanence, understanding that our actions have consequences, understanding that suffering and joy are both part of existence. Right view is not about adopting beliefs, but about seeing reality as it is. Right intention, choosing to act from kindness, compassion, and letting go. Our intentions shape our lives. When we intend harm, we create suffering. When we intend love, we create peace. Right speech, speaking truthfully, gently, with care. Words can wound or heal. Each time we choose honesty and kindness, we water the seeds of harmony. Right action, living ethically, avoiding harm. This means treating others with respect, caring for life, choosing to act in ways that align with compassion. Right livelihood, earning a living in ways that do not cause suffering. Work is not separate from practice. How we sustain ourselves shapes our minds and our world. Right effort, cultivating wholesome states and releasing unwholesome ones. It is the effort to water good seeds and to avoid watering weeds. Right mindfulness, being aware in each moment, aware of body, feelings, mind, and the world around us. Mindfulness is the key that brings us home. Right concentration, cultivating deep focus and meditation, training the mind to rest in stillness, to see clearly, to touch peace. This path is not walked in a single day. It is lived step by step, breath by breath, choice by choice. It is not about perfection, but about practice. Each step is a return, each return a movement toward freedom. Imagine someone overwhelmed by stress. At first, they live blindly, caught in craving for success, clinging to control. Their suffering grows. But through practice, they begin to see clearly. This is impermanence. This is attachment. They set an intention to live with more compassion. They speak more gently, act with more care, choose work that aligns with their values. They make effort to water patience, to release anger. They practice mindfulness in daily tasks, concentration in meditation. Slowly, their life shifts. Stress remains, but it no longer dominates. Peace enters, quietly, steadily. This is the fruit of the path. The Four Noble Truths do not deny life's pain. They reveal its nature. They show us that while suffering is inevitable, being enslaved by it is not. They remind us that freedom is possible not by escaping life, but by living it differently. Think of suffering as a knot. The more you pull in panic, the tighter it becomes. But if you pause, look carefully, and untangle with patience, the knot loosens. The Four Noble Truths are like instructions for loosening the knot. They do not cut life away. They show us how to live freely within it. So when suffering arises, remember, this is not the end. This is the beginning of a path walked by countless others before you. A path that leads not to some distant heaven, but to freedom here and now. And as we close this part, let the lesson sink deeply. Suffering is real, but it is not your prison. Its roots can be seen. Its hold can be released. Its presence can be transformed. The Four Noble Truths are your compass, the Eightfold Path your guide. With each step, you move closer to liberation. From here, the journey continues. For once we see the nature of suffering, once we understand its causes and the path beyond, we must ask, how do we walk this path with others? How do we bring compassion, not only to ourselves, but to the world around us? This leads us to the practice of loving kindness, the force that heals wounds, bridges divides, and reminds us that we are never separate from one another. When we think about the world's suffering, it can feel overwhelming. Wars, injustice, poverty, loneliness, broken families, silent struggles behind smiling faces, the pain seems endless. Faced with so much, we may feel powerless. We may ask, what difference can I make? How can one person heal so much hurt? The answer begins with a simple, ancient practice, loving kindness. Loving kindness, or metta, is the art of sending goodwill and compassion to ourselves and others. It is not sentimentality, not clinging, not romance. It is the deep wish. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be at ease. May you be free. This practice is like planting seeds of peace in the soil of consciousness. With time, those seeds grow into trees that shade not only our lives, but the lives of everyone we touch. Think of how we normally move through the day. We see strangers on the street, but our hearts remain closed. We encounter colleagues, but we carry judgments. We live with family, but we often speak more harshly than kindly. Loving kindness turns this pattern upside down. It invites us to see every being as deserving of care. It invites us to meet the world with softness instead of armor. The practice begins with ourselves. This may sound simple, but for many, it is the hardest step. We are quick to criticize ourselves, to dwell on mistakes, to call ourselves unworthy. But how can we truly love others if we cannot offer love to ourselves? Loving kindness teaches us to begin here. May I be safe. May I be healthy. May I be at ease. May I be free. At first, these words may feel awkward, even false. But with repetition, something shifts. The heart begins to open. The harsh inner voice begins to soften. Self-love is not arrogance. It is healing. It is the foundation of all other love. From there, the circle expands. We send loving kindness to a loved one. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be at ease. May you be free. We imagine their face, feel their presence, and wish them well. Then we extend to a neutral person, someone we barely notice, a neighbor, a cashier, a colleague. And we extend even further to someone difficult, someone who has hurt us. This does not mean we condone harm. It means we choose not to feed hatred. We say, "May you be free from the suffering that makes you cause suffering." And finally, the circle widens to include all beings everywhere without exception. Think of the ripples in a pond. You drop one stone and circles spread outward. Loving kindness is like that. One wish, one breath, one act spreads farther than you know. You may never see the ripples, but they move through the world all the same. Consider a woman who practiced loving kindness daily. At first, she noticed only small changes, less irritation in traffic, more patience with her children. But over time, people around her began to respond differently. Friends said they felt calmer with her. Strangers seemed drawn to her presence. Her practice had become invisible medicine, healing not only herself, but others. Or think of a man who carried deep resentment toward his brother. For years, they barely spoke, but he began to include his brother in his loving kindness meditation. At first, it was difficult. Anger rose. Old wounds screamed. But he continued, "May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be at ease. May you be free." Slowly, his heart softened. One day, when his brother called, he answered without bitterness. That conversation led to reconciliation. Loving kindness had bridged a divide words alone could not. This practice does not require hours of meditation. It can be woven into daily life. As you walk, you can silently bless the people you pass. May you be safe. As you sit in traffic, you can wish well for those in the cars around you. As you wait in line, you can send kindness to those ahead and behind. Each act is small, but together, they transform the atmosphere of your life. Science has begun to confirm what practitioners have known for centuries. Studies show that loving kindness meditation increases positive emotions, strengthens compassion, reduces stress, and even improves physical health. But beyond studies, the proof is in lived experience. The more you practice, the more you feel connected, less alone, less trapped in anger or fear. Loving kindness also teaches us something radical. No one is outside the circle. Even those who cause harm, even those we fear or dislike, are being shaped by suffering. They too long for safety, health, ease, and freedom. This does not mean we ignore harm. It means we respond to harm without hatred. It means we act firmly when needed, but without losing compassion. This is the difference between justice and revenge. Revenge seeks to hurt. Justice seeks to heal. Loving kindness guides us toward justice because it reminds us that even those who harm are human. Even they deserve the chance to transform God. Think of the story of a prisoner who practiced loving kindness. He had been hardened by years of violence and regret. But through meditation, he began to send kindness to himself, to his fellow inmates, even to the guards. At first, nothing changed, but slowly his behavior shifted. He became calmer, less reactive. Others noticed. The prison became less hostile. Loving kindness did not erase the bars, but it freed his heart. This is why loving kindness is not naive. It does not ignore reality. It transforms it. It does not deny suffering. It meets suffering with the only force strong enough to heal it, compassion. And so the practice grows. We begin with ourselves. We expand to loved ones, to neutral ones, to difficult ones, to all beings. Each step widens the circle until the boundaries of self and other blur. We realize that the wish, "May you be free," is also the wish, "May I be free." Because in truth, there is no separation. Your joy is my joy. Your suffering is my suffering. To wish you well is to wish myself well. This is the heart of loving kindness, the recognition that we are not alone, not separate, not divided. We are part of a shared humanity, a shared life, a shared breath. To live with this awareness is to live in freedom. And from this ground of love, we prepare to go deeper still. For if loving kindness is the wish for well-being, the next step is compassion in action, the courage to meet suffering directly, to stand with those in pain, to offer presence and care. This is where love becomes strength, where kindness becomes power, where our practice moves beyond meditation into the world itself. Loving kindness begins as a quiet practice, whispered in the silence of our hearts. But its true power emerges when it flows into action. To sit in meditation and send goodwill is beautiful. To rise from meditation and live that goodwill is transformative. This is the movement from aspiration to embodiment, from wishing well to being well for others. Consider a teacher in a crowded classroom. She begins each morning with a few moments of loving kindness, silently wishing her students peace and safety. But she does not stop there. Throughout the day, she practices patience when a child struggles, kindness when a child misbehaves, encouragement when a child feels small. Her meditation has become action. Her presence becomes a refuge for her students. She does not need to preach. She simply lives the practice, and her students feel it. Or think of a doctor who begins each day with loving kindness, sending care to his patients. As he listens to their pain, as he prescribes medicine, as he comforts their fears, his words carry a warmth beyond skill. Patients say, "I feel safe with him." What they are feeling is not only medical expertise, but compassion embodied. Loving kindness has left the cushion and entered the world. This is how the practice transforms society, not through grand speeches or sweeping reforms, but through small, consistent acts of care. A kind word at the right time, a patient smile in the face of frustration, a willingness to listen when no one else does. These are seeds of peace. These are ripples that spread far beyond what we can see. Even in conflict, loving kindness has power. Imagine two people in heated disagreement. Voices rise, tempers flare. One person pauses, remembers the practice, and silently wishes the other well. May you be free from suffering. The words are not spoken aloud, but the energy shifts, their tone softens, their body language relaxes. A conflict begins to cool. Loving kindness has entered the room, invisible yet undeniable. Some may ask, but what about injustice? What about cruelty? Can we really respond with loving kindness? The answer is yes, but with clarity. Loving kindness does not mean passivity. It does not mean ignoring harm. It means meeting harm with compassion instead of hatred. It means seeking justice without poisoning ourselves with vengeance. It means saying, "I will stand firmly against your actions, but I will not forget your humanity." History gives us examples. Leaders of peace movements around the world, figures like Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., and others spoke of love not as weakness, but as the most powerful force available. They faced violence, hatred, and oppression, yet they refused to respond in kind. Their strength was rooted in compassion. Their vision was sustained by loving kindness. And because of this, they awakened hearts, not only laws. On a smaller scale, we can live this truth daily. When someone cuts us off in traffic, we can respond with anger or with a silent wish. May you be safe. When a colleague speaks harshly, we can retaliate or we can pause and think, this person is suffering. When a stranger looks lost, we can walk by or we can offer help. Each choice matters. Each act is a thread in the fabric of society. When woven with kindness, the fabric becomes strong, supportive, beautiful. But for this practice to be sustainable, we must also return to ourselves again and again. Loving kindness for others grows naturally from loving kindness for ourselves. If we neglect this step, we burn out. We give until we are empty. True loving kindness is a balance. Care for self, care for others, both nourished together. Practice this balance. Begin each morning by sending kindness to yourself. May I be safe. May I be healthy. May I be at ease. May I be free. Then, extend to others. Carry it into your actions, your words, your presence. And at the end of the day, return to yourself again. May I rest. May I heal. May I know peace. In this rhythm, compassion does not exhaust, it renews. There will be days when the practice feels impossible. Days when anger is too strong, when hurt is too fresh, when kindness feels false. On those days, do not force. Simply acknowledge, I cannot offer kindness right now. Even that honesty is an act of compassion. Over time, as the heart heals, kindness will return. The practice is not about perfection. It is about persistence. Remember also that loving kindness is not limited to humans. All beings long for safety, ease, freedom. Animals, trees, rivers. Even the earth itself, when we extend kindness to them, we expand our circle of care. We recognize that we are part of a greater whole. We realize that our well-being is inseparable from the well-being of the world. Picture yourself walking in nature. You breathe in and silently say, may the trees be safe. May the birds be free. May the river flow clear. In that moment, you are not separate from the world. You are in harmony with it. Loving kindness becomes not just a practice of humanity, but a practice of life itself. This widening circle changes the way we live. We consume more mindfully. We speak more gently. We act more responsibly. We see that every choice touches the web of existence. And because of this, we choose with care. So let us carry this forward. Loving kindness is not only meditation. It is how we walk, how we speak, how we touch the lives around us. It is the steady flame that warms a cold world. It is the thread that binds us together in compassion. And as we close this part of the journey, we prepare to step even deeper. For loving kindness softens the heart, but compassion in action strengthens it. The next step is to embrace suffering, directly not only our own, but the suffering of others. To stand with it, to listen to it, to transform it. This is the practice of compassion as a living force, the bridge between personal peace and collective healing. Loving kindness opens the heart, but compassion is what moves the heart into action. Compassion is not pity, not feeling sorry for others while standing at a distance. Compassion is the willingness to step closer, to touch suffering directly, and to say with presence, I am here with you. It is love in motion. It is kindness, made tangible. When you see someone fall, pity says, how sad for them. Compassion kneels down, offers a hand, and helps them rise. When you hear someone crying, pity stays behind the wall of sympathy. Compassion sits beside them, listens, and shares silence until the tears soften. Compassion is not passive, it is engaged. It does not wait for conditions to be perfect. It acts even in small ways, even when the problem cannot be solved completely. Think of a friend who is grieving the loss of a loved one. You cannot bring the person back. You cannot erase the pain, but you can sit quietly, hold their hand, and let them know they are not alone. That is compassion. It does not fix, it accompanies. It says, your suffering matters. I will not turn away. This is why compassion is sometimes described as a form of courage. To meet suffering directly is not easy. Our instinct is to avoid it, to turn away, to shield ourselves. But compassion asks us to remain present even when it hurts. It asks us to feel with others, not to be swallowed by their pain, but to share enough that they feel seen, valued, and supported. The Buddha taught that compassion arises naturally when we see clearly. When we understand that suffering is universal, that no one escapes it, that even those who cause harm are caught in their own pain, the heart softens. Judgment dissolves. The desire to help awakens. Compassion is the natural fruit of wisdom. Consider a nurse working long hours in a hospital. She sees suffering every day: illness, fear, loss. She could protect herself by hardening her heart, by seeing patients as cases instead of people. But she chooses differently. She looks into each patient's eyes and sees not just sickness, but humanity. She listens, she comforts, she smiles. Her compassion does not cure every illness, but it heals something deeper, the loneliness of suffering. Patients say they feel cared for, not just treated. That is the power of compassion in action. Or think of a man who once despised his neighbor. Their arguments had gone on for years. But one day, he learned that his neighbor's wife was ill, that financial burdens weighed heavily on him. Suddenly, the man saw beyond the arguments. He saw the suffering beneath. Compassion arose. Instead of anger, he offered help. The hostility began to fade. Where once there was division, there was connection. This is the transformative power of compassion. It changes relationships, communities, even societies. When compassion is absent, we see division, hatred, violence. When compassion is present, bridges are built, conflicts soften, peace becomes possible. But compassion must also be extended inward. Too often, we try to care for others while neglecting ourselves. We give until we collapse. We support others while ignoring our own pain. True compassion includes the self. To sit with your own suffering, to say, "I see you, I will take care of you," is as vital as caring for others. Without self-compassion, our well runs dry. With it, our care flows endlessly. Try this practice. Place your hand gently over your heart. Close your eyes. Whisper to yourself, "I am suffering. I see this suffering. May I hold it with tenderness." Allow tears if they come. Allow silence if it is needed. In this simple act, you are practicing compassion toward yourself. You are saying, "My pain matters too. This is not selfish. It is essential." For when we care for ourselves, we have the strength to care for others. Compassion also requires balance. Without wisdom, compassion can become overwhelmed. We may drown in the suffering of others, feeling powerless, exhausted. But with wisdom, compassion becomes spacious. We realize we cannot fix everything, but we can always offer presence. We cannot stop all pain, but we can choose not to abandon those in pain. This balance keeps compassion alive, steady, sustainable. One teacher described it this way: compassion is like being a lighthouse. The lighthouse does not run into the storm to rescue ships. It stands steady, shining light, guiding them safely to shore. In the same way, compassion does not mean losing ourselves in others' pain. It means standing steady, shining presence, offering guidance, love, and care. And just as loving kindness can be practiced formally, so can compassion. Sit quietly. Bring to mind someone who is suffering. Visualize them clearly. Whisper silently, "May you be free from suffering. May you be free from fear. May you find peace." Let the words sink into your heart. Feel the warmth of compassion flow outward. Then expand the circle to loved ones, to strangers, to those who cause harm. Each one is suffering in some way. Each one deserves compassion. This practice does not erase suffering instantly, but it transforms your relationship to it. Instead of fear, you meet suffering with courage. Instead of avoidance, you meet it with presence. Instead of hatred, you meet it with love. Imagine if entire communities practiced this. Imagine if leaders, before making decisions, paused to ask, what would compassion choose? Wars might not end overnight. Injustice might not vanish instantly, but the world would bend toward healing. The fabric of humanity would grow stronger. This is the invitation before us to live as beings of compassion, to see suffering not as an inconvenience to avoid, but as a call to love, to act not from pity, but from courage, to stand steady like a lighthouse, guiding others with our presence. And as we prepare to move forward, we recognize that compassion does not mean erasing struggle. Life will always contain adversity. The question is not whether suffering comes, but how we meet it. Do we collapse, or do we stand with compassion? Do we react with hatred, or do we respond with love? This question leads us to the next step in our journey, embracing adversity as a teacher, discovering resilience, and learning how to transform hardship into strength. Compassion is not only a feeling we cultivate in stillness, it is also the way we meet adversity in motion. When hardship strikes, compassion becomes both shield and sword, not to fight with violence, but to guide us through darkness with clarity and love. Consider the storms of daily life. A sudden illness changes everything. A betrayal cuts deep. A dream collapses. These are the moments when despair whispers, "You are alone." Yet compassion answers, "No, you are held." Compassion connects us to the truth that suffering is shared. It reminds us that countless others have walked through pain and found light. It reminds us that within our very struggle lies the seed of strength. Imagine a woman battling cancer. The treatments exhaust her. The pain is relentless. At first, she curses her body, blames herself, sinks into hopelessness. But then she learns to practice self-compassion. She whispers to herself during the hardest nights, "Dear one, I know you are suffering. I am here for you." Slowly, the war with her body softens. She still endures the illness, but with tenderness instead of hatred. Her compassion does not cure her cancer, but it heals her relationship with herself. That healing is profound. Or think of a man who loses his job after decades of work. Anger burns, shame haunts, fear suffocates. But then a friend shows up, not with advice, not with solutions, but with presence. He listens. He says, "This must be so hard. I am here." That simple act of compassion gives the man strength to face the next day. His situation has not changed, but his heart has. He no longer feels abandoned. He feels seen. This is the power of compassion in adversity. It does not erase pain, but it transforms the way we carry it. Instead of isolation, we feel connection. Instead of despair, we feel courage. Instead of hatred, we feel love. Compassion also teaches resilience. Resilience is not about avoiding hardship. It is about learning to bend without breaking. Compassion is the root of this resilience. When we treat ourselves with kindness during struggle, we recover more quickly. When we meet others' pain with care, we strengthen the bonds that sustain. U.S. A compassionate community weathers storms better than one built on blame and division. Think of bamboo swaying in the wind. It bends, but it does not snap. Compassion makes us like bamboo. It does not remove the wind, but it allows us to move. With it, to endure without shattering. And here lies a deep truth. Adversity itself can become a teacher of compassion. When we suffer, we learn to understand the suffering of others more deeply. A person who has known loneliness becomes more tender toward those who feel forgotten. A person who has lost a loved one becomes more gentle toward grief in others. A person who has faced poverty becomes more generous. Our wounds can become our wisdom. Our pain can become our bridge to others. One man, after losing his daughter, said, "Before, I never understood grief. I thought people should just move on. But now I see. Now, when someone cries, I sit with them. I don't rush them. I let them grieve because I know what it feels like." His suffering became the seed of his compassion. His loss became the source of his love. This is the alchemy of compassion. It turns suffering into connection, pain into understanding, adversity into strength. It does not deny the darkness, but brings light into it. Yet, compassion also requires boundaries. To live compassionately does not mean allowing harm to continue unchecked. True compassion includes wisdom. It says, I care for you, but I will not allow you to harm me. It says, I see your suffering, but I will not enable your destructive patterns. Boundaries are not the opposite of compassion. They are its expression. For without them, compassion collapses into exhaustion or abuse. So as we live compassion in adversity, let us remember balance. Offer presence, but not self-destruction. Offer care, but not at the cost of your own wholeness. Compassion must include yourself, or it is incomplete. Practice this balance in daily life. When someone lashes out, pause. Ask, what suffering might be behind this? Respond with understanding, but also with clarity. I will not accept harm. When you suffer yourself, whisper words of kindness, but also take wise action to care for your needs. This is compassion with wisdom, the strongest form of all. As we embody this, something shifts. We begin to see adversity not as curse, but as training ground. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to deepen compassion for ourselves and for others. Every struggle becomes a teacher, whispering, love more deeply, care more fully, live more wisely. This is why the Buddha and countless teachers have spoken of compassion not as an ornament, but as the very heart of the path. Without it, wisdom is cold. Without it, practice is hollow. With it, life itself becomes meaningful. And so we carry this lesson forward. Compassion is not a luxury. It is not optional. It is the very fabric of resilience, the thread that weaves individual healing into collective peace. When we practice compassion, we discover that even the darkest night can shine with light. Even the heaviest burden can become a bridge. Even the fiercest adversity can become a doorway to awakening. As this part closes, the path opens once more. For if compassion teaches us to embrace suffering, the next step is to see beyond the surface of life itself, to look deeply into the nature of reality, to see the truth of impermanence, interbeing, and emptiness not as abstract ideas, but as living experiences that free the mind. This is the wisdom that completes the circle, the vision that reveals freedom in every breath. When we look at the world, it often feels solid, permanent, fixed. We believe things will stay as they are, that people will remain the same, that our possessions, our bodies, even our very identities will endure. But when we look more deeply, we see another truth. Everything is changing. Nothing stands still. Life is impermanence in motion. Impermanence is not only about death, though death is its clearest expression. Impermanence is present in every moment. The breath you just took is gone. The cells in your body are dying and renewing constantly. The thoughts in your mind come and go like clouds across the sky. No sound lasts forever. No emotion stays unchanged. Everything arises, transforms, and fades. Asterisk, at first, this truth can feel frightening. We cling to stability. We crave certainty. We want to hold on. The thought that all will pass away can stir fear and sadness. But impermanence is not only loss, it is also possibility. Because nothing is fixed, change is possible. Because nothing is permanent, healing is possible. Because everything shifts, growth and renewal are possible. Think of a storm. At its height, it feels endless. The wind roars, the rain pounds, the sky is dark. But no storm lasts forever. Clouds part, the sun returns, the ground dries. Life is like this. Our pain, our struggles, our fears, they may feel endless, but they too will pass. To see impermanence is to discover hope in the heart of suffering. Consider grief. When someone we love dies, the pain is overwhelming. We believe it will crush us forever. But slowly, through the months and years, the sharpness softens. The ache remains, but it changes shape. Memories bring not only sorrow but gratitude. Love endures, but the pain transforms. This is impermanence in action. Or think of joy. A moment of laughter with a friend, the beauty of a sunset, the sweetness of a song, each one passes quickly. At first, this may sadden us. But when we see clearly, impermanence makes joy precious. Because it does not last, we savor it more fully. We stop taking it for granted. We learn to treasure what is here now. Impermanence also reveals the truth of interbeing. Nothing exists alone. The flower depends on the sun, the rain, the soil. The sun depends on the stars, the galaxy, the universe. You depend on your ancestors, on the food you eat, on the air you breathe. Everything is connected, woven together in a vast web of life. To harm one part is to harm the whole. To care for one part is to care for the whole. This truth of interbeing awakens compassion. When you see that your well-being is tied to mine and mine to yours, hatred loses its power. Division loses its meaning. We realize we are not separate islands, but waves of the same ocean. Each wave rises and falls, but the ocean remains. To see this is to see that our lives are both unique and deeply connected. And then we come to the teaching of emptiness. Emptiness does not mean nothingness. It means that nothing exists independently or permanently. Everything is empty of separate self. A chair is empty of being only a chair. It contains wood, the tree, the rain, the soil, the sunlight. You are empty of a separate self-you. Contain your parents, your ancestors, your culture, your environment. Emptiness means fullness. It means everything interdash is dotted first. This may sound abstract, but look closely at your own experience. Think of anger. When it arises, it feels like a solid thing, permanent, uncheckable. But if you pause and breathe, you see it is made of many conditions: fatigue, unmet expectations, old wounds. Change. One condition, and the anger shifts. The anger was never solid. It was empty of permanence, full of causes and conditions. To see this is to loosen its grip, or think of identity. We often say, "This is who I am," but who you are changes constantly. You are not the same person you were as a child, nor the same as you will be tomorrow. Your body, your thoughts, your relationships, your dreams, all are in motion. When you see this, you stop clinging to a fixed self. You allow yourself the freedom to grow, to change, to become. This is the gift of emptiness. It frees us from attachment to illusions. We no longer demand that life be permanent. We no longer cling to what cannot be held. We live with openness, flexibility, and compassion. We flow with change instead of fighting it. These teachings of impermanence, interbeing, and emptiness are not meant for scholars only. They are meant for daily life. They teach us how to face loss without despair, how to cherish joy without clinging, how to live in harmony with others, how to free ourselves from the prison of ego. They show us that the very nature of life is transformation. Imagine waking each morning with this awareness. You look at the people you love and remember. They are impermanent. Instead of taking them for granted, you cherish them more deeply. You look at your challenges and remember, they are impermanent. Instead of drowning in despair, you endure with hope. You look at yourself and remember, you are impermanent. Instead of fearing change, you welcome growth. This is wisdom in action. It does not remove life's storms, but it teaches us to sail with them. It does not erase loss, but it teaches us to love fully before loss comes. It does not eliminate suffering, but it shows us that suffering too is made of impermanence, and therefore it too can transform. And so, as we step deeper into this final part of the journey, we see that impermanence is not the enemy. It is the nature of life. Interbeing is not a theory. It is the fabric of existence. Emptiness is not despair. It is freedom. These truths, when lived, turn every moment into a doorway to liberation. When we see impermanence, interbeing, and emptiness, not as concepts, but as lived realities, something profound shifts inside us. Fear begins to loosen its grip. Clinging loses its urgency. Compassion grows naturally because we no longer see ourselves as separate or permanent. We become lighter, freer, more present. Take the truth of impermanence. Once we fully embrace it, we stop postponing life. We no longer say, "I will love later, I will rest later, I will live later." We understand that later may never come, that now is the only time available. And so we speak the words we once withheld. We savor the meal we once ate distracted. We smile at the stranger we once ignored. Impermanence teaches us to love now, to live now, to be awake now. Interbeing deepens this love. It reveals that every act touches countless lives. When we recycle a bottle, we care for the rivers and oceans. When we speak kindly to a child, we shape the adult they will become. When we choose patience instead of anger, we influence the mood of an entire family. Nothing we do is isolated. Every gesture ripples outward. To see this is to live with responsibility, but also with joy. It means that even the smallest acts matter. Emptiness brings the final freedom. When we no longer cling to a fixed self, we stop defending, competing, comparing. We realize that identity is fluid, alive, ever-changing. This frees us from the prison of ego. We no longer need to prove ourselves. We no longer fear being less. We simply live open to transformation, open to connection, open to life, together. These truths form a vision of liberation. Liberation does not mean escaping the world. It means living fully in the world, but without chains. It means facing loss without despair, meeting change without fear, loving without clinging, acting without ego. It means seeing every moment as miracle, every being as kin, every breath as gift. Imagine standing by the ocean. You watch the waves rise and fall. Each wave is unique, yet each wave is water. You too are like a wave born, rising, falling, returning, impermanent, interconnected, empty of separate self. To see this is to find peace in the very heart of life. And so we come to the close of this journey. We began with pain, stress, anxiety, fear, loneliness. We looked deeply into suffering and discovered its causes. We practiced mindfulness, compassion, loving kindness, and the sacred pause. We learned to let go of blame, to come home to ourselves, to embrace adversity, to see reality clearly. Step by step, we walked the path from struggle toward freedom. Now, as we stand here together, one truth shines above all. You are not broken. You are not powerless. Within you is the capacity to transform suffering into wisdom, fear into courage, anger into compassion. The teachings are not outside you, they are within, waiting to be lived out. So let us carry this forward. When stress rises, pause and breathe. When anger burns, hold it tenderly. When fear whispers, answer with compassion. When joy appears, savor it fully. When loss comes, remember impermanence. When life feels heavy, remember interbeing. When ego shouts, remember emptiness. This is the path, not a distant promise, not a hidden secret, but a way of living here and now. Each step you take in awareness, each breath you take in presence, each act you make in compassion, this is liberation unfolding. And as you leave this journey, remember, you are never alone. You are a wave in the great ocean of life. You rise and fall with countless others. Your joy is connected to theirs, your suffering to theirs, your awakening to theirs. To walk this path is not only for yourself, it is for the whole world. So breathe deeply, smile gently, live fully. The door to freedom is open. It has always been open. It is waiting for you in this very moment, in this very breath. Step through and live awake.